Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to moderate today on a matter of national importance, that is, defense equipment manufacturing in India. In recent years, India has taken significant strides towards self-reliance in defense production under the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. With a robust ecosystem of public and private sector enterprises, we are now designing and manufacturing state-of-the-art weaponry, aircraft, naval vessels, and surveillance systems within our borders. The importance of indigenous defense capability was underscored during the recent India Pakistan conflict, where swift response and sustained preparedness proved critical. Reliance on sovereign foreign suppliers during times of heightened tension possesses strategic vulnerability. Manufacturing our own defense equipment ensures operational readiness, technological sovereignty, and strategic autonomy. Moreover, a strong domestic defense sector boosts our economy by creating jobs, encouraging innovation, and fostering partnership with global tech leaders. As we look ahead, it is essential that we continue investing in research and development, supporting startups, and streamlining procurement processes to make India a global hub for defense manufacturing. Now, it's my honor to introduce our esteemed chief guest, Lieutenant General Sunil Kumar Gadeock, AVSM, and Commodore Anil Jai Singh. Lieutenant General Sunil Kumar Gadeock, AVSM, was commissioned into the Brigade of Guards and is an alumnus of National Defense Academy, Khadagwasla, Indian Military Academy, Dehradun. He holds an MSc in Defense Studies, an MPhil, a diploma in senior level defense management, and has recently completed his PhD in Defense and Strategic Studies from Madras University. Over his distinguished career, General Gadeock commanded 12 guards and 23 independent armored brigade, served as General Staff Officer Grade 1, and Colonel Administration in 2 armored divisions. He was logistics officer to the Botswana Defence Force, brigadier quartermaster in Northeast, and youngest aide to 2 presidents of India. He also served as the adjutant of National Defence Academy. His leadership earned him the Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, 2 Chief of Army Staff Commendation Cards, commendation from Eastern and Western Army commanders, and several civilian honors, including the Golden Peacock National Training and Environment Award, Rotary Lifetime Achievement Award, and Rajiv Gandhi Gold Medal. As commandant of the Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, he led the institution to receive the President Colors and national accolades. Post retirement, he serves as Director General at Amity Institute of Defense and Strategic Studies. General Gadeock is widely respected as a transformational leader and continues to inspire future defense professionals. Now, coming to Commodore Anil Jai Singh. Commodore Jai Singh, sir, is an honorary adjunct fellow at the National Maritime Foundation and senior vice president of a leading European MNC in India. He also serves as a vice president of the Indian Maritime Foundation and the Navy's Foundation's Delhi chapter, as is on one of the governing body of the Society of India Ocean Studies. He has co-chaired ASSOCHAM's Defense and Aerospace Committee and served on the Defense Audit Advisory Board. As an alumnus of National Defense Academy, Defense Services Staff College, and Naval War College, Commodore Singh distinguished 3 decades naval career, included commanding 4 submarines and a fleet ship, with specialization in anti-submarine warfare from Soviet Union. He has held key staff and instructional roles at Naval Headquarters, the Submarine Warfare School (NDA), and Naval War College. He served as Defense and Naval Advisor at Indian High Commission in the UK and as Deputy Assistant Chief Maritime at the Integrated Defense Staff before prematurely retiring in 2011. A postgraduate in Defense and Strategic Studies, Commodore Singh is a prolific writer, speaker, peer reviewer on maritime strategy, indigenization, procurement, and Indo-Pacific security, regularly contributing to conferences, think tanks, and medias in India and abroad. Now, starting with our webinar. So, my first question is with Lieutenant General Gadeock, sir. So the question is that how the battlefield validation of Indian-made defense systems during Operation Sindoor, such as BrahMos missiles, Akash air defense, Akash Tir, and advanced UAVs has boosted global confidence in India's defense equipments, and they are now opening new export markets and creating a momentum towards meeting India's export goals under the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. Please, sir.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Very current, clear?
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir.
All right. Thank you. Uh, Thank you very much, and very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely grateful to Aditya and, of course, Sanamitra of the Indian Netizens Forum for inviting me to participate online today from Wellington in this webinar, online mode. And I find myself very lucky, actually, to be amidst a most learned officer of the Indian Navy, very senior officer, happens to be none other than the stalwart Admiral Anil Jai Singh. Anil, very happy to see you here with
My
me,
pleasure,
share
sir.
the forum. Uh, what Darshot has asked me, I shall very briefly take about a minute or two on this aspect of Atmanirbharta. It's a very fine self-reliance defense initiative. Understandably, I think the nation um is absolutely very terrific, gone in for strategic autonomy, which happened only in the last couple of years, I must say, as part of our strategic communications, which has developed recently in the country. And I'm very happy to see that it has very largely infused, I'm selecting this word, transformation and self reliance concomitantly in India's defense sector with a phenomenal trajectory surge in domestic defense production and exports. Now, this has contributed, ladies and gentlemen, about 65% in very fine measure to operational readiness. When I use the word operational readiness, it tantamounts to operational preparedness plus operational effectiveness. Your readiness is overall, sum total, you must understand. And readiness of any country operationally means the armed forces and all of India approach put together, that is the whole nation approach, is equal to your training of the armed forces personnel, which is preparedness, and also the equipment, that is maintaining a very high threshold of training and also serviceable high grade equipment along with the ammunition. Please remember, ammunition is very important. You cannot have the guns less the ammunition. You can't fire. Well, then in that case, you only have to surrender. So kindly get that thing right. It is very important. And whatever I speak, ladies and gentlemen, today is very authentic. I'm referring to basically the primary source, that is the Press Information Bureau. Now, I wish to speak a little bit about of Sindoor, not about what happened, but I would like to labor upon a very important, significant, critical issue. It has benchmarked this operation, has benchmarked de novo, befitting response to park terrorism, spotlighting India's indigenous military potential. Now, the best thing is that most of it was indigenized equipment, the combat potential which was put at fore, which you saw, emanating from a robust defense sector. Otherwise, you cannot do it. Very centric to our national security. Now, the cardinal direction adopted by the Indian forces was shaped by actually the latest doctrinal strategies. Now, whilst the country is adopting a particular joint integrated operations as part of its strategy, please remember it's an ongoing continuum rhythm which is maintained by the forces. So, we are reshaping our doctrinal strategy as per the latest technology and the conflict spectrum which we are seeing in the world. And therefore, you'll be very happy to know that advertently, the latest multispectral threat manifestation has been cogitated, been understood, been able to deliver, that is through the intelligence, and with killer innovative technologies, the Indian armed forces have very successfully been able to devastate, degrade, and decimate the enemy's war waging capabilities. Now, enemy in this case, of course, I'm referring to Pakistan. I don't mince my words. Now, please remember the advanced stored RT, that is gun system ATACs, I think that is by Bharat Forge. It will not only enhance, in fact, the firepower, but also it has 307 units, 155 millimeter, and of course 52 caliber guns, and 327 high mobility, that is vehicles 6x6, gun towing vehicles. You understand, 6x6 means it can go through all kinds of terrain, even in the desert. It requires very high power mobility vehicles. And this is required by the RT regiments. And I think Bharat Forge has been given those 7,000 crores in delivery undertaken. It is also developed by DRDO, Bharat Forge, and Tata Advanced Systems. Now, please remember that India has developed all these major military platforms, such as the Dhanush RT gun system, the Advanced Stored RT gun system, and the main battle tank Arjun, light combat aircraft Tejas, and all the submarines. Now, all this put together, we have a very diverse defense production and export portfolio, which includes not only those bulletproof jackets that was being talked about by the chief, and also Dornier aircraft talked about the air chief, that is Dornier 228, the Chetak helicopters, the fast interceptor boats, lightweight torpedoes, and medium-diameter boots, of course, which were only meant for the Russian army. I can say that all these cutting-edge supplies have been given by the corporate sector and also contributed very majorly by the DRDO. So, ladies and gentlemen, 65% of the technologies, that is, indigenized technologies, are being made available, whereas it was the reverse, absolutely reverse. We used to export only 25% to 35%, in fact, 35%, and import 65%. Right now, India is sitting, in fact, on a very healthy export that market of, we are going to talk about it, I'll speak about it later. And we are exporting about 65%, in fact, of the defense manufacturing arsenal which is being produced over here. So if that is it, Darshot, I would like to hand you over for the next question to Anil.
Sure, sir. So, taking to the next question, my question to Commodore Jai Singh sir is that how are the India's indigenous defense capabilities developed under the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, ensuring the nation's strategic autonomy and operational flexibility in today's dynamic geopolitical environment, as it has been demonstrated by the rapid, precise, and coordinated actions during Operation Sindoor? Please, sir.
Well, firstly, thank you very much for having me on this show of yours. I'm honored to be amongst you all. I always enjoy interacting with young people and understanding how dynamic and far-sighted their thinking is. And to share a panel with General Gadeock is a rare privilege. He is a visionary. We all look up to his wise words. He has set standards. You mentioned in your bio that he was the commandant of the Defense Services Staff College. And that was a few years ago before he retired. And I was just mentioning to him earlier that this year I did visit the Defense Services Staff College in March. And despite his having been away from there for many years, his footprint was still visible in many places. People were still talking about his time as a commandant. So that shows the sort of enduring legacy he has left behind there. And let me tell you, the Defense Services Staff College is probably not only one of India's leading institutions of higher learning, but perhaps globally one of the most advanced military higher education institutions perhaps in the whole world. When we were doing the staff college many years ago, we get a lot of foreign officers who come to the staff college. Most of them would say, "Oh God, we felt so bad when we were appointed to the Indian Staff College because we got to study over here. We were all hoping to go to Pakistan or Bangladesh. We would have had a holiday for 1 year." That was the general reaction of the foreign officers. And now we've got to work over here for 1 year. So that's the sort of reputation it has. Anyway, coming back to the present, Once again, thank you very much. Yes, you have taken a very topical subject, particularly in the aftermath of Op Sindoor. It has become even more relevant because this is after many years, the Indian military mettle was tested to whatever limited extent it was, and perhaps limited because it surpassed expectations and took the enemy by surprise. Otherwise, perhaps this thing would not have ended as soon as it did, because we had them on the back foot within 2 days. And don't forget, this was before India really opened up its firepower. This was sheer, just a sort of giving just an indication of what we could do was enough to bring them to their knees. So let's understand that. Now, coming to the strategic autonomy part, India's foreign policy has always been one of strategic autonomy. Even when India was not a big power, we were not an economic power, we were a poor country, India punched well above its weight on the international stage. We headed the non-aligned movement when the whole world was divided between the USSR and the US. We took an independent line, which didn't mean that we were not going to talk to either of them. It meant that we will talk to both of them and see our national interest in the bargain. It is our national interest that comes first, always and every time. That's what strategic autonomy means. It doesn't mean that we will not interfere in anybody's anything. We will do what we think is best for us to do. So that is important. And the problem is that the moment you become dependent on another country, particularly for your security requirements, your strategic autonomy is severely compromised. We experienced this twice. First time when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, we suddenly found that the entire defense industry in Russia and the other countries around it had collapsed. Now, 70% of our equipment at that time was from the Soviet Union. And it was fairly new equipment because we got most of our equipment from the Soviet Union between 67 and the early 90s. And we really found ourselves on the back foot. I was the executive officer, the second in command of a submarine at that time. We were an operational submarine. We had to go for operational deployments. We were woefully short of spares, and only we know how we managed to meet all our commitments despite those challenges. But that's a separate chapter. And so we realized that, we can't be dependent on any one country. That was the first wave of indigenization which began when people started looking at indigenization seriously. Till then, not much attention had been paid to indigenization as a concept. The second time was when we exploded our nuclear devices in 1998 May. The entire Western world placed us under sanctions, except, of course, France, to the extent that countries even recalled their defense advisors from Delhi. They took it that seriously. And again, we found ourselves that whatever little Western equipment we had, suddenly we found ourselves on the mat. There were no spares. We could not get it operational on time. And even though sanctions were lifted by 2004 or so, it took us almost 5 or 6 years, I can speak for the Navy, to get all our equipment back on track, the Western equipment back on track. So almost 7 or 8 years, we were operating with one hand tied behind our backs. Now, India is a big power now. India cannot afford to ever be in this position again. Because if you are there, you neither have the operational flexibility, which you mentioned, to do what I want to do, when I want to do, or I don't have the strategic autonomy because somebody is going to tell me, I'm sorry if you do this and I'm not going to give you something else. So we've got to be very careful. I know no country in the world can be 100% indigenous, 100% Atmanirbhar and all. Technology will be got from abroad. Certain technologies have to be got, but they have to be got on our terms. We have to ensure that they can never hold us to ransom. For example, like the Prime Minister just said, nobody can hold us to nuclear blackmail anymore. Similarly, nobody should be able to hold us to ransom. So that is where indigenization and Atmanirbharta are going to play an extremely big role. Now, the endeavor in the early 2000s used to be that we would like to be 70% indigenous and 30% rely on foreign equipment. Before that, the ratio was 30-70, as General Gadeock mentioned. And the aim was, let's make it 70-30. I think we are very close to being 70-30, as he mentioned. But I would suggest that we should not only look at 70-30, we should be looking at 90-10 or 95-5. But what is important is not the indigenization you're doing per se, but the quality of the indigenization you're doing, in the sense that are you being able to develop those cutting-edge technologies which really make the difference? And that is what our endeavor now has to be. We've reached a certain level of maturity in manufacturing TOT. We can produce guns, we can produce ships, we can produce submarines, we can produce everything. Now you've got to look at the absolute upper cutting edge of technology. For that, we have to make an investment. Our R&D budgets, unfortunately, are not yet at that level. Often you hear the lament that private industry is not, contributing to the R&D effort, unlike, say, the Lockheed Martins and the Boeings and the General Atomics. In India, the L&Ts and all are not doing it. I now work in industry. It's not that they don't want to do it. We have to create a policy environment, an enabling policy environment by which when that company is willing to make that investment of crores and crores of rupees to develop that cutting edge technology, he has to be assured of some return. He's not doing it for charity. So that policy environment has to be created where you're told, if you can develop this, I'm going to take so many from you when you develop it. So that encourages him to do it. But if you tell him that, okay, go ahead, develop it, we'll see whether we want it or not after that, it's not going to happen. So we have to now create. We are at that that inflection point where we have to take the next leap into indigenization and Atmanirbharta. And if indeed, as the Prime Minister has said, by 2047 we are going to be by Viksit Bharat 2047 vision, we are going to be absolutely Atmanirbhar in the defense sector. This is the sort of leap we have to take now. It's happening, but it probably needs a little more momentum, which I'm sure it'll get, because it's wake-up calls like Op Sindoor which galvanize and catalyze the sort of system into reacting differently. So both for strategic autonomy and for operational flexibility, we have to be Atmanirbhar. We have to have a high level of indigenization. And now our next focus has to be on cutting edge technologies, which the West doesn't part with easily. And obviously they won't. It's their cutting edge technology. Why would they give it to you? So we have to develop our own. So that is what we should be focusing on. That's all for now. We'll go to the next question later.
Very well put, sir. Strategic autonomy is definitely the key to our geopolitics outstanding in the current scenario. And Atmanirbharta is definitely the key to our strategic autonomy. So coming to our next question to Lieutenant General Gadeock, sir. So the question is that how does Operation Sindhu reinforce the strategic importance of India's Make in India initiative in defense, demonstrating the potential of domestic research and development and manufacturing to meet both national requirements and the growing defense needs of the global south? Please, sir.
So you're muted, sir.
Okay, sorry. Not that I'm going to give too much of a gyan, but a little bit of statistics, very important, because we must understand, and I again got this from the Press Information Bureau. I will start off firstly giving you a little bit of general information. Then we'll get on to the defense exports, the opportunities and challenges, and then I'll cover the advantages and shortcomings. Because we must understand, these students, it's very important to comprehend and to be able to carry out a causative analysis as to what is defense sector, the defense exports, its opportunities and challenges, and how the advantage is going to accrue to us, to India, to the Indian Armed Forces, and what is civil military liaison, and what is the symbiotic connect. And thereafter, I would like to just cover very briefly the shortcoming. Now, India's defense production, as you are aware, has reached 1.27 lakh crores in the financial year 23-24. That is 174% rise since 2014-15. So how many years back? About 10 years back. So what has happened is it's driven by a Make in India initiative, producing, like I said, 65 to 70%. Now, defense exports have hit a record of 21,083 crores. Now, it started off with very meager, 50 to 80 crores. But typical of Indian leadership under the present Prime Minister, he has very dynamic, visionary, quintessential leadership, understands the military dynamics also and the regional context of national security, keeping our national interests paramount. Therefore, what we have done is we have expanded this 30 times, because let me tell you, a country only which has got military power and economic power will be able to sustain itself. Are you all aware that last night, I think India has got good news. We have become the fourth largest economy of the world. I think Japan has sunk slightly. They have dipped and we have flipped. We've got elevated to fourth largest economy. And I think you can check it out, Atty. That is from the Google, and give all the students the good news. So this has happened in the last 10 years, what I'm trying to say. Now we are exporting to nearly about 96, 97 countries. Now the IDEX, that is Innovation and Defense Excellence, and the Samarthya, they are driving the technological advances as per the Ministry of Defense. Now this is a very good thing. All artificial intelligence, cyber warfare, indigenized weapon systems, everything to be covered, which I'll be going in greater amount of detail subsequently, all are covered under this. In fact, the corporate industry is now being co-opted in a very willy-nilly similar manner as was being done, and DRDO, along with them, have connected, and therefore they are producing some highly innovative technology, which is going to be very not only cost productive, but also going to be meeting the requirements, that is a prerequisite for operational requirements for the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. Now, 14,000 items indigenized under Srijan. That is, what is Srijan? It is self-reliant initiatives through joint action. Now, through Srijan and 3,000 under positive indigenization list, PIL, this has been made very conducive, created an environment by the Ministry of Defense. Now, India aims at what? We have set a target by the country, by the Ministry of Defense, that is by 2029, we should be aiming at 3 lakh crores, 3 lakh crores in production, and 50,000 crores, that is by 2029. I'm talking of exports. Now, just imagine where the country was just exporting 80 crores, and now we are talking of 3 lakh crores and 50,000 crores. Now, that is the kind of phenomenal dimension that we have got elevated. And this is the kind of boost, a kind of a steroidal shot, which has been given to the defense industry. Now, the surge in the defense sector from 2.53 lakh crores in 13-14, which I said 10 years back, it is 6.81 lakh crores. Now, you can imagine that is in 10 years, there's a boost from 2.5 to 6.8. Now, that makes it a good about 4.3 to 4, which, let me tell you, for a country like India, it is quite substantial. Now, our defense budget, I'll put it down in billions of dollars because it's very difficult for some of the students to convert billions of dollars into crores and vice versa. Indian defense budget is now going to be pegged US dollars 74.7 billion. And right now, India is ranked 4th globally. That is, this was in 2024. I'm giving the figures of 2024. Now, we may be considering to increase it substantially. Our defense budget certainly is going to go up. You take it from me today as I am speaking on 25th of May. And like I said, our target is going to be in US dollars, it's going to be 6.02 billion worth of annual defense exports by 28-29. And like I said, the Admiral is here. He'll bear testimony. Last night, I told them, Anil, that India was declared the 4th largest economy of the world because Japan slipped and we moved up. The Indian economy is still, I think it's been prognosticated to go up, I think, by 7.2%. That is in fourth quarter. Now, the robust defense industrial base, it not only includes 16 DPSUs, you know what is DPSU, as also 430 licensed companies and 16,000 MSMEs and 194 defense, that is technical startups. All these startups, like in Amity, Aditya must have seen, we got the Amity incubation. That is, startups are being incubated there. And let me tell you, all youngsters, all the younger generation, that is Gen C, who are interested, who are entrepreneurial in their outlook, they have a forward outlook. All those youngsters are being given the kind of capital investment so that they are able, not only in defense, but in the corporate sector, they are able to come out with some very good innovative solutions. Now, this critical gap, you all must know. You will say, sir, if we have a certain defense requirement for the Army, Navy, and Air Force, the CDS studies it, and he has a conference, and all the 3 chiefs say that, sorry, the indigenization is not able to give me for my operational readiness 100%. That is true. Indigenized defense sector manufacturing, I'm sorry, I have not been able to get X, Y, and Z. Now, what do you do? So, therefore, the government has said that, all right, to meet up your criticality, that is, your critical defense effectiveness requirements, all three services will be given right now 50,000 crores to make up their deficiencies. Now, that includes ammunition. Please remember, a country can only fight. I'm speaking about India, I don't speak about other countries. A country can fight for 30 plus 15, that is at intense rates of war wastage reserve. So that should be the template every student must know. I've converted 30 plus 15, that is 45 days of intense, high intensity conflict operations. I'm not talking of LECO, that is low intensity. I'm talking of high intensity conflict operations in a hybrid environment involving conventional war with the AWS, that is with all kinds of weapon systems, total conventional war. All right. Uh, Now I come to what is very important, very briefly, about the opportunities, which I told you. Now, please remember the geopolitical advantage. What is it that you get as far as India is concerned? You know, India still is being spoken about as a non-aligned foreign policy. You know, we don't. You just heard the marshals, the admiral, speak about the Indian strategic autonomy. Have you ever heard the External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jai Shankar, aligned towards a particular country? He never does it. And it does show that India certainly abides by its national interest. We are actually, if you really ask me, just very, very few, minuscule number of countries that India does not see eye to eye, but we still don't have any confrontationist attitude. But in as far as our diplomacy and military diplomacy is concerned, India maintains with most of the countries, I think, a very fine symbiotic relationship, which no other country in the world till now has been able to create. Now, what is the other aspect correlated with this? If you are geopolitically advantaged because of your strategic autonomy, therefore, you will get a palatable partner. You will have good partnerships because the countries will come to you. Diverse portfolio. That is when you have a diversified export portfolio. What does that mean? Now, India has shown to the world that on the laundry list of military hardware, we've got missile technology, we've got RT guns, we've got coastal surveillance system, naval platform. You heard of BrahMos. We were targeting very effectively with zero error syndrome most of their military cantonments and air bases. Now, that was done with the help of BrahMos missile. The Air Force was using the SCAP missile. Now, all these missiles, which I'm not talking about Sky, but BrahMos is Russian collaboration. Now, most of the countries, I will just make a mention of it. You know, there is a growing demand. Indian stocks of indigenized production has gone up 4%. And certain countries, I will not name, whose weapon systems have performed miserably, especially from China and other countries, they have dropped because they were not able to match the Indian arsenal. For example, the aircrafts, for example, the radar system, for example, the air defense. Now, whether it is short range, medium, or long range air defense, we will come to that. So, therefore, what happens is that there's a demand for cost effective solutions. The world is going for cost effective, reliable defense solutions. Now, if they find it in the Indian system, which thanks to Av Sindoor, it has substantiated and it has proved a point that Indian indigenized stuff integrated with the Russian, like for example, the S-400, and like India's right now deliberating and also cogitating about going in for S-500, which is going to be having an extended 500 kilometers. This is just about 380 kilometers. So therefore, your maintenance upgrade expertise has also been seen by the world. Now, what is that? India is known for upgrading and maintaining the expertise in as far as its platform-centric weapon system. It ships. Now you can ask the admiral, some of the ships, some of the Air Force aircrafts, if the life is just for 15 years or 20 years, India has been able to carry out with its technical expertise an extended life of another 15 years. Now look at your MiG 21s. They were, I think, here with India for, I think, good about 30, 40 years. When we joined the Indian Army, the MiGs were flying in the skies. And you ask the Admiral, I mean, look at the ships. They're still floating and they are absolutely battle worthy. So India has got a fine signature in as far as its trust and worthiness of its defense systems. Next issue is defense partnership. Now, let me tell you, your collaboration with countries like, say, United States, Russia, UK, France, now for co-development, even Korea, for co-development and co-production. Therefore, the countries see that the Indians are collaborating. They've got a very fine understanding of these defense systems and they're using it very successfully. Not only in the joint operations, in the integrated joint operation exercises, multinational and otherwise, but it gives a very good Indian export footprint. I'll say that. It gives you a very fine export footprint, a kind of a certificate. The next is the government focuses and targets. Now, all of us know that after the Op Sindoor, the government has said that, all right, we fill up all the gaps. And India today, in fact, I'm going to see it I've just received some very good information that the government is planning to clear some proposals and the approbation is going to be taken at the CCS, and then the CDS is going to chair the conference, and with the clearance of the Ministry of Defense, I think we are going in not only for the. I'll have to see that because there's something which is not only short range, medium. India is going in for 5 layers of air defense system in the next 2 years. 5 layers, because India wants to show to the world that there'll be no country which can use, besides Pakistan, no country in the world at any distance in the neighborhood or otherwise, that is beyond the ocean lines and the frontiers, can use any kind of missiles and projectiles, including intercontinental ballistic missiles, to penetrate the Indian skies. Therefore, you are going to become impenetrable. And that, I think, is going to be very true, because India goes by Chanakya Niti. We don't go by any other Nitis. We only go by Chanakya Niti. And that is the best defense policy. The policy formulation, which has been done by the Prime Minister and his council of ministers along with the chiefs. Now, what does that mean? Philippines, it translates Philippines, Egypt, Mauritius, Maldives, France, Ethiopia, UAE, Poland, Spain, Chile, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Israel, Bhutan, Saudi Arabia. And let me tell you, there could be a few more I may have missed out. And this has happened basically after Op Sindoor. There is a growing demand for indigenized systems. Now, what are the challenges? Very briefly, I'll take just about a minute. The challenge, my dear, lies in the global competition and market dominance. You know, there are certain countries, like the Admiral mentioned, Lockheed Martin, you got Siemens, you got the Boeing, you got Raytheon. You see, when you got some of these defense giants, I'll call them, they are conglomerates who have been in existence for the past couple of years. And American systems, I'm talking of United States system. Now, basically, America believes in promoting the war industrial complex, which you should try to understand. They are not peacemakers, they are warmongers. Okay, I'll say this in open platform. This has been said by all Indian think tanks, and I also head a think tank. Americans are warmongers. It's only Trump who's now trying to broker peace. But what was the Biden administration doing? It got the NATO to get into conflict. And that's why Russia hammered the hell out of them, because they got annoyed. That is, they were let down the trust, the faith, and the confidence which was reposed, that is the only arbiter of success. And that when it was diluted, the Russians went in for an offensive. Now, that was to teach a lesson that if you don't abide by the treaties and the premises that exist, then you will have to get liquidated and annihilated. And that is what the Russians have done in this Eurasian war. So the Americans have promoted the military industrial complex. They have been selling in billions and trillions. But what have they done? They have made the Ukrainians a kind of a guinea pig. It's a place where they've used the human resource, that is the soldiers, sailors, and airmen, and they are experimenting all their war equipment. Now, it is a pity that they have indulged in this kind of ideology, which certainly is not going to be promoted by the present administration. I'm very happy about it. Next, what is important is your technology and quality perception. Now, please remember that while India is improving, establishing a reputation, that is for its cutting edge technology and consistent quality on a global scale, it, my dear, takes a little bit of time. It cannot be that what Bharat Forge has produced or what Adani Systems have produced. I'm going to take the names after some time of all the systems which are being. Let me tell you, they are going to be the finest in the world. The finest because the Indian brain, the brilliant students that you are the guys, you are the future leaders of tomorrow. You are the guys, and the innovative solutions are fantastic. The experimentation is going on, and let me tell you, on the threshold is some of the finest cutting edge technologies which are coming to the fore. Now, geopolitical complexities, that is navigating complex, this domestic and international export control regulation. Let me tell you, it takes time. It's not easy. So, our exports are going to take a little bit of time. And let me today, I can foretell and prognosticate that the Indian exports are going to come up. I'm giving 5 years, 25 to 30, 5 years. Indian defense exports are going to be leading in the world. We are going to overtake all the countries. I cannot say about China and United States, but the rest of the countries are going to be in the wake of the Indian defense export industry. Now, another two, three words about the challenges, and that is resistance from the major powers. We are going to get a lot of resistance, and therefore the export industry is going to get victimized to a certain extent. There are going to be ethical dilemmas. Now, what is that? The sanction, now say supposing we are collaborating, we are engaging with the Russians. Now the Russians are undergoing certain amount of sanctions. So you see, indirectly and advertently, our exports are going to get stymied. So you must understand. And also, the Indian exports have got to be substantiated, they've got to be followed up. It is something like a AMC, the annual maintenance contract. Now, if your after sales service and logistics are good, then you're going to get hell of a lot of advantage. But the advantage is self-defense, that is hostile, abominable neighbors like China and Pakistan. We have showed it in Sindoor. Strategic advantage of self-reliance, make in India, don't have to depend. Op Sindoor happens, surgical strike has to be undertaken, whether it's Pulwama or it's Pelgam, India straight away goes in 24 hours, 48 hours. Now, if you are banking on a whole lot of damn systems from other countries, you have to keep waiting for the bloody aircrafts to arrive and the ships to arrive with all the damn arsenal and military hardware, software, and the bloody ammunition. So when you're self-reliant, you don't have that disadvantage. And look at the self-reliance strategic advantage that you're giving, that is net security provider as a country. The technological advancement, catapulting your economy, the economic drain which was there in your country, you know how much money you spent in crores for all the imports? It is unimaginable. 3% of the GDP on defense and 60% of it on imports. Now, India is going to cut down and we have to gain phenomenally in as far as our defense exports, which are going to contribute to the economy and the GDP. And lastly is employment, that is defense manufacturing. You've seen the DICs, the defense industrial corridors, which are there in North and South. They are coming up very well. The one which has just been inaugurated is going to be in UP, that is 100 BrahMos missiles. And lastly, a word about, I'll take just about a few seconds. Now, what are the shortcomings, my dear? You should know. That is your narrow private participation. It is only 21%. Now, we are working on it. There's another talk which I'm going to give in as far as corporatization of defense, civil military, that is civil military fusion. We lack critical technology and modern manufacturing machines. Are you aware that DRDO, well, this is open domain, not so much to be spoken about. Your DRDO does not have the latest machines. Some of the machines are very archaic. Very sorry to say. You see the machines which are there in China and some of the countries which are producing defense equipment. They have the latest machines. Unless you don't spend a fortune in R&D, that is, DRDO doesn't wake up with the latest machines to carry out. And let me tell you, DRDO is not a bad look. You give them the latest machines, you give them the targets, and no nonsense like HAL. HAL, I very strongly feel, as a military officer, should have a military air marshal. It should have an air marshal. I believe there's some other gentleman over there who may not be having the same threshold and the intellectual propriety to understand avionics and the air dimension and the aircraft and the necessity of operationally using them at the national level. So HAL must have an air marshal, like the Navy has done very well. The naval chief gives it out very blatantly, very confidently. And he says, well, I've got my vice admirals, and they're producing all the ships, all the warships, the submarines, and even the aircraft carrier. That's the way, ladies and gentlemen, to do it. HAL should go to the Air Force. It must have leadership, a blue leadership. And the last point is the lack of coordination, that is between the stakeholders. We must have ease of doing business. It is still taking a damn long time. I'm very upset about it. It's still taking a very long time. We have to wake up. And this wake up is a red alert call. There are a whole lot of guys who are getting perturbed and frustrated, and they walk away because they get annoyed and they feel that the damn ease of doing business shows no expediency. If we have to go to war, we have to wake up on this particular aspect. Thank you very much.
So, sir, actually, I'm having a follow-up question for the same. So, as we know that we are very much dependent on USA for our engines for our Tejas and AMCA program, and there has been a constant delays in the same. So, how has the India's Kaveri engine program progressed so far, and what targets and the research, technological advances, and collaborations are now needed to overcome its remaining challenges and achieve successful integration into frontline platforms like the Tejas Mark 1A, AMCA, and the advanced UAVs?
Is that question to me?
Yes, sir, any of the.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah. As the general very clearly brought out, HAL has had many shortcomings, and the Chief of Air Staff has also highlighted these in the not so recent past, particularly on the delivery schedules, etc. Similarly, I think the Navy is also not particularly happy with what HAL has finally delivered. We use the stuff because it made it, but whether we are fully satisfied with it, I'm not so sure. So there are many reasons for it. Firstly, of course, as General Gadeock brought out, inadequate budgets. So no matter how much brain power you might have, for cutting edge research you need budgets, because a lot of money goes into, and you should be willing to accept failure. For 10 attempts, one might succeed. So you can't start criticizing why did 9 fail. 9 will fail, only then the 10th will succeed. And that is why you need this big budget. That one item may not developing that one technology by itself may not be so expensive, but you have to cater for the number of failures you might have by the time you reach that step. So that's why you need these big budgets, firstly, which have not been there. Like I had also said in my answer to the first question was, DRDO hardly gets 3% of the defense budget, 3% share of the defense budget. As it is, our defense budget is not very much. On top of that, he gets only 3%. That's nothing, actually. So, as the general brought out, machines are old, archaic, technologies are old. You have to make investment if you want returns. It's very simple as that. And that is why I said you have to create that policy environment where before that investment that is made, you get suitable returns. So that's very important. As far as the Air Force is concerned, and yes, we've had problems. I think our main weakness in the aviation sector is the engines, basically. Everything else we can produce about an aircraft. I think it's only the engine which we are not being able to do. Of course, these two recent arrangements, one with the Americans for the G404 or 414, where they promised 80% technology transfer, and the other one with France for the Safran engine. These two are very positive developments. Obviously, neither the Americans nor the French are going to give us that, that core technology which is required for developing that turbine or that engine. But that once we start making them ourselves with that 80% manufacturing TOT, we're going to get experience in how to do it. And slowly we'll find that we are able to then experiment with things and improve. So this will take time. But fortunately, a start has been made. We wasted many years on the Kaveri project. I'm not sure whether it should be continued with or not. I'm not qualified enough to comment on that. But certainly we wasted many years on the Kaveri program. And finally, we had to go for the GE engines to get our aircraft for HAL to deliver the aircraft. There are some fundamental shortcomings in HAL. And like, again, the general brought out, HAL, unfortunately, and this has been told to me by a very senior Air Force officer, has never had an Air Force officer as its head, except I think many years ago, an ex-air chief as an air marshal had been the boss of HAL. They've always had civilians. I'm not saying the civilians don't know this stuff, but the Air Force person sitting at the helm, firstly, is able to bring about better synergy between the service and the industry. Secondly, he understands the exact requirement of the user. He is going to be the user of the thing. It's not a theoretical thing. It's a user. What does the user want? Now, here what happens very often is I'll design something, I'll make it. The user will say, no, I want 10 modifications to this. So again, for 5 years, the thing will go back on the back burner. So yes, the Navy has taken a start in that. As again was mentioned, we've always had, by and large, we've either had very senior naval officers at the helm of shipyards who sort of, they were not appointed by the Navy, but the Navy wanted them there, so they got appointed. Or even in cases where they've not been directly sort of sponsored or whatever word you want to use by the Navy, they have grown in the shipyard system, but most of them are ex-naval officers. They're Commodores who left the Navy as Commodores, went into the shipyard, then they became director shipbuilding, director submarine, director this, and worked their way up within the system to reach that level of CMD. So they've had 30-35 years of experience of being in the Navy and thereafter in shipbuilding before they become CMDs of shipyards. So they understand the user's requirement. And the other thing, the advantage the Navy has, I'm digressing a little, is that we have always associated very closely with industry and with the DRDO organization. Every lab of ours, which produces naval stuff, has naval officers present over there, whether it's NMRL, whether it's NSTL, whether it's NPOL. Similarly, in the shipyards, we have ship overseeing teams, submarine overseeing teams who are working very closely with the shipyard and the crew on the other side to make sure that the actual requirements of the Navy are met. So I think the Navy has managed to work this out very well, fortunately for us. Of course, it's taken many years. There have been hiccups in between, but by and large, we've done it. Perhaps the Air Force needs to do something like that. Or when I say the Air Force needs to do, I don't mean the Air Force is not doing it. They must be trying. Perhaps the MOD, HAL, Air Force, they all have to come on the same page and say, yes, this is what we need. The country needs now. We need you, we need us, we need everybody to put our heads together and deliver one solution. So that is very important. But yes, like I said, like to the question you answered, yes, there have been delays in all the programs. We hope that the recent initiatives on the engines will deliver the right results whenever they do. And of course, and as the general said, defense equipment is not something you go buy off a shelf. So if today I say I am doing very well in indigenization, and you say no, but you're still the largest importer of arms in the world, that is not a correct comparison to make. Because if I decide today to become an indigenizer or focus on indigenous equipment, it will take me 10 years before I'm able to see the results of that. For those 10 years, I'm still dependent on foreign equipment coming in. So I will still remain a large purchaser of foreign equipment, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing enough to reduce that bill at some point of time or the other. So that is something that needs to be understood. We seem to think, oh, we don't make anything in India, we're importing everything. It's not true. It's a long drawn out process. Defense equipment takes a long time to conceptualize, design, build, validate, operate, trials, this, that, before it becomes combat worthy, before it can be taken to war with confidence. Secondly, in defense equipment, you must understand, militaries don't go and go to fight a war. They go to win a war. So you have to have the equipment which make you win the war and not just go fight a war. So you have to have that confidence that what you're going with will make you win the war. And that is very important. So, I mean, I don't know if I answered your question, but this is broadly what my view on this is, on your question.
Yes, sir. Certainly, it has answered the question, sir. And before further we progress, I would like to ask everyone to turn on their cameras to ensure the interactive environment of the webinar. And all the questions that you are having, we will reserve it for the afterwards. At the last, we will be having a Q&A session. So we'll take all the questions in that session. My
Dashot,
next, yes, sir.
Dashot, I just wanted to highlight, I just got a paper cutting. I'm in the southern hemispheric region of the country. I've got the Times of India, that is Coimbatore, May 17. I've underlined this newspaper. Can you just give me about 2-3 minutes? 3 minutes, 5?
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Okay. Since you are giving it very definitely, then I shall definitely go ahead. All right. And
Sure, sir.
I'll just try to educate you and myself. What the Admiral said, it is very important. Now you see, we cannot play. It's very colloquial. We can't play Mutt and Jeff, Tom and Jerry. This stupid thing of getting those engines from America. We'll give it to you. You come over. We'll see. You first buy our apples. All the nonsense is going on with the Americans. Now you come to know as to whom to trust, whom not to trust. Though, of course, Trump is trade tariffs and this and that. That he created a mayhem in the market all over the world. But I'll tell you one thing very clearly. Just see what your Prime Minister done very astutely with the Ministry of Defense. We have collaborated, must make a note, we have collaborated with MOU, and we are producing C-295 military transport, 265, 265, a transport aircraft at India's first. This is what is required, and this is how the country has to go. Paras Defense, recognized for its credentials in indigenous design, development, manufacturing. It has set a benchmark in what? Electronic warfare optics and drones. Alpha Design. I think Alpha Design is by Adani Systems. Radars, tank components, satellite payloads. There's a beautiful documentary. All the students must see that, Adani System. What I'm trying to say, you must feel proud of the fact that your indigenization has been given a kick start and it is achieving a hyper trajectory, parabolic. I never thought, I was feeling so proud of the fact that in the morning when I was sitting and trying to go through this, it says L&T secured contracts 13,359 or 69 crores for high-powered radar system and close-in weapon systems. It is being approved. Adani Defense and Airspace inaugurated 2 ammunition and missile firing facilities, approved. Kanpur facility, seen by the Prime Minister, going again. Drones, just see what has happened. Now, you see, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think India started off with the drones rather early, good about 15, 20 years back, but nothing much materialized. I was actually involved from Amity. I was involved with the previous late Chief of Defense Staff, Bipin Rawat. We were very good friends. And we showed him some drones, all variants. Light drones for ISR, heavier drones, that is for logistics, and much heavier drones, that is to replace the mules and everything in high altitude areas. I can tell you in just few seconds now what we are doing. Drones, switch, fixed wing, vertical takeoff landing, UAV, idea for DRDO, Army, ISR. Netra V2, quadcopter, UAV, idea for DRDO, CAPF, that is paramilitary forces, Army, ISR, crowd control. Sky Striker, which was used in Op Sindoor. Sky Striker, loitering ammunition. Alpha Elbit, Israel, collaborative with Israel. 100% accurate, not like Pakistan, using fake, useless Chinese drones. Army, kamikaze attacks on targets. Bang on. Nagasatra, Naga Astra, Naga Astra 1, loitering ammunition. Solar Industries, Indian Army, kamikaze attacks, bang on, 100%. Circular error probability 1 meter. Alpha 5 swarm. Now, what do you understand by swarm technology? I think the students require to understand. You know what China has come out with? China is saying, I'm going to use my stealth fighters, Air Force. But before the Air Force stealth fighters goes and attacks any adversary, I'm going to send a swarm of drones to neutralize the air defense. And when the air defense is neutralized, the stealth fighters will make barbecue out of all the targets. Are you understanding? You use swarm preceding stealth fighters. And this is, my dear, the new doctrinal paradigm. Try to get it in your mind. And when you sleep at night before saying your prayers, try to think about what China is doing and what China tries to devastate and obliterate. How it goes about a new doctrinal shift. Please remember, the Indians are also developing the Nagastra 2 advanced loitering ammunition, Solar Industries. This is being developed. The Skypod logistic drone, cargo UAV, Garuda Aerospace, field trials are underway in Siachen, logistics. The Jatayu heavy lift logistic drone, Garuda, that is defense partners, under testing, mountain logistics, and even the Navy has put in, actually, I think that has been done very well by the naval chief. He has put in also a demand for drones, swarm drones. Now, just see, did you ever think that the swarm drones would come to the Air Force or to the Indian Army only? The Navy for maritime, that is when the aircraft carriers are going to be embarking, that is for foreign shores, and the entire armada, that is fleet of warships, which is missile frigates, corvettes, and destroyers. All this moves into the oceans like a floating bastion, which is basically actually indestructible. When it has swarm drones, it has whole lot of arsenals, armory, loitering ammunitions. It is using the latest technology so as to make sure that the algorithms and the electronic warfare, you create actually a curtain of electronic warfare to make sure none of these swarms are able to penetrate closer, that is 100 kilometers, to the naval aircraft carrier. So that swarm of drones has been given to the Indian Navy. Just imagine the Raven tactical UAV, vertical takeoff and landing fixed wing, Chortle Aerospace air systems, under testing, tethered drones, surveillance systems. It's called RAFE, I can't produce it, RAFE M Fiber, Paras Defense, collaborating. It's under development for border surveillance. It's going to take on the entire, all signatures are going to be given to the AVAC, Airborne Early Warning Systems, which India destroyed of Pakistan the moment they took off. The AI-based swarm control, that is swarming architecture. New space is going to make it 11441, R&D, Air Force, and the Indian Army. What I'm trying to tell, ladies and gentlemen, that all this capability that is being given out by me is going to enhance tremendously in dimension, in time and space, the capability of the Indian Army, not only for defensive ISR, but also to very intelligently, through AI, get decision making in a millionth of a second. The human brain is the fastest in the world, but AI has overtaken the human brain by carrying out decision making, processing in a millionth of a second. Now, I don't understand how a second can be cut down into a millionth, but that is what your AI is about. That means the processing is going to be done. It's going to be sending what all is going to take off from Pakistan, is going to land at the airstrips. Anything in the Navy is going to take off, that is from the Karachi, that is from the ports, into the maritime domain. It's all going to be picked up in the millionth of a second, transmitted to the early, that is airborne AVACs, which are going to be in the sky at an altitude of 30,000, 40,000. is going to be transmitted straight to the cat's paw. Cat's paw in the Indian Air Force bases at selected places. We won't talk about it, it's secret. It's going to be picked up, and from there, the DG Air Operations, whom you saw, he will be controlling through all the guys who are responsible for carrying out these surgical strikes in the same time frame. And it will be given and allocated not only to the land, but for maritime air operations, land, and concurrently, that is for carrying out surgical strikes, for rendering all air bases and military targets ineffective. So I thought I must put this in the correct perspective and educate the children. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, next question.
Thank you,
Anything,
sir.
about, you told me anything about private sector integration, logistics?
Yes, sir, like it has been covered up in the current, you have just told, sir.
Mm-hmm.
You can, sir, further explain the, sir, the private sector logistics in the current scenario.
You see, it's very important for the students to understand as to do the students understand what is all India, what is the all India approach? The whole country, when it goes to war or in a spectrum of conflict, gets involved. Right from mobilization, manufacturing, all resources are placed under command. The commanders at all levels, from the Navy, Army, and the Air Force. That is from the ports, all resources are under command the naval commanders. Army, all tractors, human resource under command. Everything which is moving or static is under command the military commanders. Air Force, all things which are moving in the sky, that is all your corporate, commercial airlines, all wherewithal, your workshops, facilities, base repair, overall, everything after the Union War Book is invoked, that is, mobilization orders are given for conventional war, then everything is placed under command the respective services. That is, comes under the CDS. And the theater commanders will get activated and energized to use it. Now, please remember, there's going to be something, the National Logistics Cell, which is coming about. So the criticality has been understood. It is already going ahead. We are not speaking about it because right now in open domain, we are not supposed to give it out. But I have all the details. It's progressing very well. The civilian logistical capabilities will come under the Indian Army, and it's going to be synergized and made sure that optimized resource allocation with advanced logistic technologies, civil and military, will get automated so that the supply chains, you understand what is the supply chains? They get energized in less than 1/10 of the time frame. That is time and space management for logistics, that is data analytics, and automated supply chain solutions will get energized. At the same time, your civilian logistic integration, that is with the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, stockpiling ammunitions, improving your logistical routes, as also training. Please remember, it is not automatic. Training of the Naval, Army, Air Force, all personnel, that is with the civilian logistic entire bandwidth, I'll call it a bandwidth right now, on fast track basis, will be incorporated. And lastly, all emerging technologies, that is AI, what do you have, the drone logistics, blockchain, will all get revolutionized in as far as your management techniques and deployment of resources. It is something called, in the Indian Army, you got the um, Operational Logistics Directorate. Likewise, in the Navy and the Air Force, you have the Logistics Directorates. Now, all three will be synergized and working in tandem. They'll all have a very revolutionized way of working so as to cut down the timings, and all deliveries will happen in time frames, in war time frames. Just try to understand that. But it requires a certain amount of coordination, synergy, innovation, and strategic policy formulation. Right. Thank you. Yeah, next.
So now coming to Commodore Anil Jai Singh, sir. So, sir, can you please put a light on how the India's defense acquisition procedure 2020 has strengthened India's indigenous defense manufacturing and private sector innovation, and what further reforms, especially in speeding up procurement and increasing flexibility, are needed to boost private sector participation and making the process more inquisitive and efficient? Please, sir.
Okay, so defense procurement was a very opaque procedure before 2002. The first defense procurement procedure came out in 2002. And that was also the year in which for the first time, private sector was allowed to participate in defense production. Both these things happened in the same year. Thereafter, regular iterations of the DP, that time it was called the DPP. Regular iterations of the DPP took place. We had 2002, 2005, 2008, 2010 amendment, 2015. Finally, and at every level, it kept it kept getting refined. Feedback was taken from stakeholders, etc., etc. But there were some fundamental flaws which remained. And every time the effort was to address these flaws. For example, I'll tell you, in the DPP 2010, till then, shipbuilding, for example, the chapter on shipbuilding was only that shipbuilding will only be done by nomination. That means the government will decide who's going to build which ship. So the private sector shipyards were nowhere in the loop because there were no worthwhile private sector shipyards till then. Pipavav hadn't yet come up. Bharti was just about coming up. EBG was coming up. So I remember I was in the headquarter ideas that time. I was Deputy Assistant Chief Maritime in the prospective planning. So we were also part of the DPP process. And it was at our insistence that finally the Chapter 3 on shipbuilding was modified to include private shipyards also. And it said that, for the first time, it said that there will be a competitive bidding process for shipbuilding orders. It will not be by nomination. Except special types of ships may be there, which you can't give to the private sector because of confidentiality reasons or whatever they may be. They will be nominated. That was 2010. That was one breakthrough. I'm just talking about shipbuilding right now, giving an example of shipbuilding. By the time the next one came, this clause was also removed. It became openly competitive. So, at every stage, it kept improving. But the problem was that till 2015, many amendments and modifications were done to the DPP. But the policy framework did not change commensurate with those amendments that were made. And so while on paper, the DPP did whatever it was supposed to do and it looked very, very sort of structured and streamlined, in reality, that was not translating into the orders that should have followed. Now, when you say, you must also understand there's a human element in this. I mean, you can follow a procedure, but if somebody sitting at a decision-making role feels at a particular time that this may not be the appropriate time to do a certain thing, it will not be done. And so, there was a phase in India which was called a time of policy paralysis. I'm talking of that phase, when decisions were not being taken for whatever the reasons were. 2015, when Mr. Parikar took over as defense minister, so I remember an interaction I had with him soon after he took over. We were a few of us there. I was that time chairing the ASSOCHAM committee on defense and aerospace. So he showed us a copy of the DPP of that time, 2012 DPP, I think it was at that time, and said, I have tried to read this book and I'm thoroughly confused. So how you people understand this 175-page book is beyond me. I'm going to sit down and streamline this book and make it into a 30-page book, which all of us understand, and streamline the procedure. So we were all very sort of pleased with that. We said, wow, this is actually somebody's taking it. When DPP 2016 came, it was double the size of the previous DPP. It became 272 pages instead of becoming 30 pages. So because we complicated the process, buy Indian, buy and make Indian, buy this Indian, buy global, make in India, IDDM. We've got some 8 or 9 categories of defense equipment. Now, they are required because, otherwise there'll be a lot of subjective things. So there are certain laid down things, this indigenization content, etc., etc. So that is good. So that was as far as the DPPs over the years came. There were 2 or 3 things which I will come to later, which are still shortcomings in the DPP. Then when 2016 DPP came, it brought in something called Chapter 7, Strategic Partnership Model. Now, this was supposed to transform the landscape as far as large projects went. So the Strategic Partnership Model in Chapter 7 included 4 things: submarines, helicopters, fighter planes, and tanks. These 4 procurements in future were going to be done according to the Strategic Partnership Model. Now, the Strategic Partnership Model very clearly also stated that this is an attempt to bring in the private sector to augment the capacity of the public sector in these high-end things like submarines and tanks and aircraft and helicopters. So again, it was welcomed that this is a good step forward. But from 2016, now we're in 2025. Not even one single contract has been signed by the strategic partnership model. So there are certain flaws, there are certain shortcomings in that model which were highlighted at that time. Unfortunately, when the 2020 DAP came, these were not addressed. And the 2020 DAP came with exactly the same, word by word was a carbon copy of the 2016 DPP on Chapter 7. And so nothing really moved. So now we are on the verge of the next DAP coming out, because now 2020 DAP said that a new DAP will come out every 5 years. So we are expecting that in 2025, a new DAP will come. We are hoping that this time we have suggested and we are hoping that this time they will take the views of all stakeholders. They will call industry, private industry, government industry, foreign industry, everybody, armed forces, services, everybody, DRDO, and then come to a conclusion as to what are the things, what is the reason why these things are not actually working. They're all there. They're all very categorically stated. So why are they not working? Why are actually contracts not getting signed by those? In 2015, they brought out, 2010, they brought out something called a Buy and Make Indian. Till 2020, only one contract had been signed under Buy and Make Indian. So that is the issue. Why is it not happening? I'll tell you two basic problems. One is we have got caught up in this L1 syndrome, that it has to be the cheapest. Now, you can either buy the cheapest or you can buy the best. You cannot buy the best and the cheapest. That's very clear. So very often what happens is, because now so one is of course the L1 model, that it has to be the cheapest. So if there are three competitors, everyone is trying to dumb down the RFPs to say that I should be able to meet this cost which is benchmarked. How that benchmarking is done is also got many questions to answer. So we have to get out of this. Firstly, if we are looking to improve our technology, and if we are looking at high-end technology, then we can't have an L1 system. What we need is something like call it a T1 system, let's say, which is a weighted matrix in which you take everything into consideration. You assign percentages. Technology is so much %. So the indigenization is so much %. This is so much %. This is so much %. And now tell me what is the cost. And instead of L1, that weighted matrix T1 should be the consideration for choosing or signing the contract, so that you are able to meet what your other requirements are. It's not just about getting the equipment. And now as we go in for more and more Atmanirbharta and more indigenization, we have to look at this. That are we getting maximum bang for our buck? Or are we compromising on getting the maximum bang for our buck because we're trying to keep the buck as low as possible? So this is one area of the DPP which needs urgent attention. Second area is, there are certain issues, particularly with foreign, we still have to buy foreign equipment for a few more years to come. We can't get away from that. There are certain force majeure conditions. Now, force majeure conditions are so rigid in the DAP that a foreign company is very hesitant to accept those. And so very often what happens is the foreign company says, I cannot take such a big risk with this force majeure. So I would like to have it as a G2G model, where my government also underwrites some of that risk as a government. Now, the moment it goes into a G2G model, the commercial element starts getting diluted. Then it becomes G2G. So as a result, you will see, if you see any of the big ticket items that have come till today in the Indian Armed Forces from abroad, particularly, whether it's aircraft, whether it's submarines, whether it's whatever it might be, not even one big procurement in the last 23 years of the DPP has come through the DPP framework. It has either come through G2G contracts, where government to government deals, or it has come through foreign military sales, which is like the G2G of the US. So if that is what is happening with the big ticket items, then we really need to have a relook at our DAP and say, why are we not able to adapt the DAP to our bigger projects? It's okay to buy a gun or a radar or a sonar or something with the DPP. So it takes 5 years to sign a contract. But we have to address these bigger issues now in the DAP, because we are now looking at only big ticket items from abroad. Everything smaller than that, we are being able to more or less build in our own country. So if we are looking at big ticket items from abroad, then either we do away with the DAP and say, okay, we'll go for G2G models, whichever way they work, or we'll just go by whatever we think is the best. So that is one. Second thing, another area which needs attention is, how do we benchmark our pricing? Now, for example, let's say I want to buy a gun today. A gun is costing, let's say, 100 euros. How does the MOD do the benchmarking? It says, when was the last time we bought a similar gun? We bought a similar gun in 2005 for 50 rupees, 50 euros. Now, what was the annual rate of inflation in Europe? This gun should now be 78 euros and not 100 euros. So why are they asking for 100 euros? That is how benchmarking is done. Now, benchmarking is not the most elegant way of doing what we call price discovery. There are many other ways. Other countries don't do benchmarking like this. Because there are many factors, there are many intangibles, particularly when it comes to defense equipment. Firstly, with defense equipment, you cannot go by a linear scale of annual inflation. There are supply chains involved, there are other things involved. So these are the issues which now, when the MOD sits down, and it's not that the MOD is not aware of it, they're all very intelligent people sitting there who are also aware. If you and I can talk about it, I'm sure they're also aware of it. But it's only a question of putting it down. And like I said earlier in my answer to my first question, we are making the policy, but we're not willing to implement that policy thereafter. So we have to make a policy which is implementable, and we are also committed to implementing it. That is the important thing. So if we have to do the DAP 2025 to be a meaningful document, particularly when it comes to big ticket items which come under the strategic partnership model, then we have to look at the whole DAP holistically once again and see what needs to be tweaked where. For example, we have three: make one, make two, make three. There is still confusion on what is make one, make two, make three. You ask a normal entrepreneur in a startup, are you doing make one or make two? Poor fellow's confused. As to, because there is some twist somewhere, between the lines, which he's not able to understand. So we have to simplify this procedure. The other thing we have to do, particularly now that we have a very vibrant startup culture, very, very vibrant in the defense sector, it's extremely vibrant, and the armed forces themselves are now encouraging. You have IDEX programs. We have, the Army's got that problem statement. The Army Design Bureau has given 75 problem statements. The Navy's given 75 problem statements to these startup guys. They're already translating into contracts. So now we have to see how well are we integrating them into the system, the defense procurement system. Now, when you talk to a young entrepreneur who's got a small startup of 10 people who worked very hard and developed a prototype, and now they've been given a bigger contract and said, okay, you made a fantastic prototype. Now I want 100 of them. You have to facilitate. How is he going to scale up to build 100? With 10 people, he's been able to build one for you. How is he going to make it 100? So is the bank willing to give him a loan? Can he get a loan at reduced prices? He can't take capex at 14% from a bank. He'll be bankrupt before he started making the 100 items. Those are the issues which need to be addressed. There was this lady. She's a successful startup. She's one of the few success stories. I was talking to her at one of the conferences, and she said, sir, for me, we are a startup of 10 people. My paperwork to get registered and get into this is exactly the same as L&T's paperwork. They've got 500 people doing this job. I'm 5 people doing this job. She says, I get swarmed by this only. Where do I have time to do my research and my development? I'm just getting swarmed in the paperwork, legal, this, that. So we have to work out a via media. We have to find a solution by which we facilitate the MSMEs, we facilitate the startup entrepreneurs, encourage them. Because what will happen? Right now, there are about 1,000 guys who are making drones. Okay. If out of 1,998 fall by the wayside, the next lot will never make drones. They say nothing works. We spend so much money, we spend so much time, we spend so much effort, and it just came to nothing. So we have to look at it in a very holistic manner. The defense procurement procedure can't be one size fits all. It has to address every segment of the defense industrial complex, small, big, medium. Otherwise, what will happen? These small guys will not be able to do it on their own. They'll get gobbled up by the big guys, and that will be the end of innovation. So we have to look at it like that. So that is why I feel the next DAP which comes must address these 4 or 5 issues, because the environment is changing so rapidly that we have to keep abreast of this all the time. We cannot just go back to our archaic process and say, no, we have to be transparent. We are doing it for probity, And like I used to say very initially when the DPP came and I was on these committees, I said, you cannot start making a document with the assumption that everybody's a crook. So you have to you're bringing in conditions to ensure that nobody can do crookery. Don't start with the assumption everyone's a crook. Start with the assumption everyone's honest, but prevent that one crook from getting away with it. That is how we should be working on it. So this is how we should look at the whole DAP process, the defense procurement process, so to speak.
So due to time, yes, sir.
No, that's it. That's it for this question. Yeah.
Okay. So due to time constraints, we have to come to the question and answer round. So I would like to call upon Deepal ma'am to ask her questions. Please, ma'am.
So actually, sir, my question was like, after the success of Operation Sindoor, like several countries have expressed their interest in procuring BrahMos missiles and other Indian defense equipments. So, in light of this, like, do you believe India should really consider transferring such sensitive technology to foreign buyers? Because obviously, it would be an economic booster for us, but I think that it could pose a risk to our national security, especially if such technology is potentially used against us in future.
See, firstly, I think it's very important. Defense diplomacy is extremely important and extremely effective. You see how China has been able to surround us strategically by sheer defense exports. Submarines to Bangladesh, a gun to somebody, a ship to somebody else. They've got us all around. Because defense exports give you a certain amount of diplomatic and military leverage also. Firstly, you choose who you're giving it to. You don't just give it to anybody. You have to ensure you're giving it to a friendly foreign country. You're not going to give it to somebody who's going to use it against you. And if you do it smartly, you have to ensure that you do not create a competitor by giving that guy so much technology that he becomes a competitor to you.
Exactly.
I can give you the example of South Korea. Uh, South Korea got so much technology from TKMS Germany that today they're competing with TKMS Germany for submarine orders.
Yeah.
Because they're a sophisticated country, they were given a certain amount of technology, they build the rest themselves. So all this has to be kept in mind. And again, I'll come back to the same thing I was saying, that no country parts with the real critical aspects of its technology. I'm sure India will also not be parting with that. Certain things will go as black boxes. And if you don't, here's the missile, this is the black box. Don't ask what's in this, the source codes, the algorithms. Those are never going to be shared with anyone. But yes, it is very important. As General Gadeock brought out, exports has become now the key result area for the Indian Ministry of Defense. And the more you export to friendly foreign countries, the more diplomatic and political leverage you get in the area. And we have, so if you notice, every defense expo that's held in India, there is a special conclave held with Latin American defense ministers, African defense ministers, Southeast Asian defense ministers who come there. It's like an official sort of marketing exercise led by our defense minister. And that is why we suddenly find that, our exports are leapfrogging every year. We are reaching, I think, a $5 billion target or something, and $25 billion target thereafter. General Gadeock had given those figures. So I think defense diplomacy is very important, and export of defense material is one of the key things. I mean, look at it this way. Had we had the capacities to export, let's say 20 years ago, why would our neighbors have taken equipment from China? We'd have given it to them.
Yeah.
Right? Why would Bangladesh take submarines from China if India could give them 2 submarines? But we just didn't have the capacity to build. Now we're trying to create that capacity. So I think it's a very important thing, if that answers your question. So,
Thank you, sir.
Anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, perfectly all right. I think what you are saying is just bang on, bullseye.
Thank you.
Correct. Good perspective.
So we are having with us Anamitra ma'am. She is currently working with HQIDS and has been a constant mentoring with the Indian netizens. So I would like to call up Anamitra Banerjee ma'am. Please, ma'am.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
General Gadeock, Commodore Anil Jai Singh, my sincere compliments to both of you. Taking the leverage of the professional and academic, whatever little bit I had learned from both of you. I have a very simple question. In the background of Operation Sindoor, we had also launched the Operation Cyber Shakti. And a lot of the things also got exposed, like for the need for critical AI ML systems, and also our own cyber systems as well. But given the fact that AI, cyberspace, these are more on the non-kinetic means, so should we go with the fact of having more in numbers or more on the quality, or should it be a good mix of both? I want to learn from both of you, starting with Commodore AJ Singh.
Yeah, thank you for that question. You are in headquarter ideas, so you know exactly what's happening over there. But nevertheless, I think we are now reaching an era where non-contact, non-kinetic warfare is really going to be is going to be a very important element. I mean, kinetic warfare will be there. I mean, ultimately, you need that hard power. You need that. But this is going to be very, very important, and we need to pay a lot more attention to it. We are paying a lot of attention to it. We have a cyber agency, etc. And now, AI and ML, I mean, to us, to our generation, it still seems like an alien sort of concept. But if you see the young people today, they're growing up with it like we grew up with probably algebra and geometry and trigonometry, in our time. It's integral to their sort of growing up, studying, everything. Everything is AI enabled. Everything is, ML. the armed forces, traditionally are slow to change, as we always hear that. But that's not because they don't understand it. I think that's because they have to be very sure of what they adopt ultimately. They can't afford to be taking chances and guess what. So yes, I think even today, even in Indian industry, I think every new technological development that's happening has got a grounding of AI and ML in it. AI is going to shape the entire decision support loop in the battlefield, whether it's the OODA loop or whether it's the command control mechanisms or whatever it might be. There is no doubt about it. The earlier we adapt to it, and that's where I think civil military fusion has a very important role to play, which General Gadeock had alluded to, because there's lots happening in AI in the civilian sector, and we have to adapt that. We can't work in two separate silos. So it is going to be very important. And I think we have to be very clear that if we have to reach that stage of kinetic warfare where we have to prove our hard power capability, we first have to be superior in the non-kinetic, non-contact warfare level to reach that level first. Otherwise, before we reach there, we'll have been crippled. Uh, so that's my view.
General Gadeock, your views kindly.
Yeah, since Anamitra, you're known for asking very simple questions, it's very difficult to answer simple questions. Actually, we have only been groomed and nurtured for answering difficult questions. Actually, what the Admiral has said, I totally acquiesce with his views. I wanted to give you something which is not so very well acquainted, I think, to the student fraternity. So, if you don't mind, I will just try to digress a little bit
Yes, sir,
and
please.
just try to, because I got enlightened. So, I think if I get enlightened, and I'm very excited about it because I'm a nationalist. I'm not talking of jingoism, but I certainly, my favorite is, after the Prime Minister, my favorite is Republic TV, that is Arnab Goswami. He talks to me very often. You see, it is very important that in this country, we try to understand what is threat manifestation, which I've spoken about earlier, threat manifestation and response. Now, response cannot be dekhenge, karenge, and all that. I'm so damn happy that in this country, the political will, the military will, the political aim and the military aim, they are all synchronized, synergized, and the paradigmatic changes are going to be the tenets for this hybridity, this hybrid environment warfare. And what the Admiral just spoke about, kinetic, non-kinetic. There's a beautiful book produced by my student doing PhD under me. He's just got his doctorate in November, Brigadier Varma. It's on non-contact warfare. I'm telling you, the boy has produced a kind of a Bible on non-contact warfare. I must tell you that the Indian Armed Forces, we are strengthening a space ground integration information network, like the Chinese. I'll repeat. I just came to know about it. Space ground integrated information network, like the Chinese. You must be knowing. It's called acronym SGIIN. Now, signal intelligence and this thing is very important because unless and until you do not have electronic warfare spectrum defined and you don't master that, you're going to be nowhere in this new battlefield maneuver of this century. Now, what has China done? China has planned the it's called the Wang, I don't know if I pronounce it, call it GW. Mega constellation consisting of 13,000 satellites. And you must have heard about it. 13,000 satellites, right? Not prioritizing what I'm saying, but we require to focus on geostationary orbit, medium Earth orbit, MEO, and LEO, low orbit. Now, unless and until we do not have this interconnectivity of this bandwidth and that spectrum, it has to be very effective and functional space ground network undertaken by ISRO and DRDO. I was so happy. I was just talking to one of my elder friends. I won't take his name because he's working on top secret and secret dynamics. He just confirmed affirmatively that, sir, he calls me sir, he's much elder. Sir, we are at it. And I shall break the good news to you when we go to the Ministry of Defense and when we are trying to give our presentation. I am so thrilled about it because I never know that I never, in fact, thought that India would be entering that domain. But you can imagine the ISRO is working on it with the DRDO, and this gentleman is working on it himself. So he has been given the project. The other one is the Indian Data Relay Satellite System, IDRSS. Now, this is all, my dear, post Sindoor, op Sindoor. Now, just imagine Sindoor has just finished. We've sent our delegations all over the world to tell them that this is what India is defined, exemplified, ideated. This is what Indian character is. And today, approvals are being given, that is for SGIIN and IDRSS. So you can imagine how fast we are working because we want to show it to the world that we are already into it and don't take us lightly. And what is the next thing? Of course, you heard about the Harrops and the Harpy loitering ammunitions and everything. Now we are going in for the ALS 50 Tata Advanced System, that is TASL, as well as the EEL, I think, and it's called the Z Motion Autonomous Systems, ZMAS or something. It's called ZMAS, which is going to add further momentum. Now, just see, I didn't know about all these things. I was quite ignorant. But today, I said, I shall celebrate. I shall celebrate as an Indian. We are moving faster, I think, today than the Western world. We are still lagging behind the Chinese, but we have to catch up with the Chinese. And I can tell you, if this is the way the instructions are passed and the approvals are given, I think even the admiral who has spent so many time and so many days, and he has been working intensely in a highly, of course, I should say, conducive environment, not a tense environment, but we have not been able to simplify the procedures and show expediency. And today, India, after Sindoor, has shown that whatever R&D laundry list is there, the DRDO and the corporate defense industries are going to make it. And this is what I've got, in fact, on my mobile. Short distance, I think the Admiral will, I'm not acquainted with it. It's called V SHORADS, the short range air defense systems. I think it's all to do with, Anamitra must be knowing. Bhargav Vastra, beyond the QR SAMs, the VLR SAMs, the Akash Nagastras, and the mid distance. Now I'm saying what the government is going and what is getting approved. All proven and tested systems doesn't account for the numerous anti-drone, anti-UAV system, which I just gave out, elucidated some time back. They are going to be approved by the government of India. Within 2 years, the government is going in for the project Kush. I didn't hear about this earlier. The project Kush, it gets into place, and also within 2 years, same time frame, concomitant, Astra 3 will be in production, arming all our ground attack aircrafts. Astra 2 will be the mainstay. Astra 3 in making, approved. We are speaking about sanitization of 200 kilometers airspace beyond the border. And if India opts for S500, I just spoke of S400, sir. It is 380 kilometers. This is S500, that is 500 kilometers sanitized kill range. Now, if there's one system that we would recommend is either to get or develop is, I never heard of this. Again, it's called a Krasukha, a 4 electronic warfare equipment analog. I really don't understand. I think what it means is it's going to totally, I think, create a blanket. It's going to create an electronic warfare jamming system. So the entire bandwidth of electronic warfare gets jammed of Pakistan from the other side of the border to about 300 kilometers plus. My God. If that thing happens, you can imagine that your AEWs are going to be functionally effective and operationally versatile, being able to guide, that is from Catspaw, all your fighter aircraft, just like we did now, with greater impunity, and carry out destruction of all core targets and chief staff committee targets. Now, this was something which I heard today. And lastly, I will just speak about the students must know if there's any talk, even after a drink from here onwards, please, ladies and gentlemen, support the Russian Su-57 aircraft. For God's sake, forget and delete out of your human memory the F-35. If you don't delete from tonight, I shall not speak to you here after, and I shall not be a friend of yours. Anamitra, kindly note. I shall not come on your program too. Delete F-35.
So we
And
will not get it for sure, because anyway we have signed the SOSA last September, and then also the AMCA project is delayed. And given the the erratic behavior of Mr. Trump, he's
yes,
not really a reliable partner. And secondly, the all the systems that we are having, 70% or 70 to 75% is all indigenous, but the critical components are being still outsourced, and most of these private players are getting it either from China, if they're going on the expensive side, might be from Israel or South Korea or somewhere else. But then that should not be our goal in the near
very good.
future. We should
Very good.
try to partner with, now that even the Russians have given us an offer to set up a BrahMos facility here, I think we should actually lap it. But then I am not the decision maker who's sitting on
No,
the
but
top level.
no, but Anna, you should know. No, but your chief minister of Uttar Pradesh has already said in 18 it was inaugurated 100 BrahMos missiles per year in the defense industrial corridor next to Greater Noida,
Yes,
very
sir.
close
Yes,
to
sir.
where we
Yes,
are
sir.
located in Amity.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
that is going to be produced. And I must tell you that any kind of equipment which the Americans are giving, it's quite outdated. The F-35 is again outdated. It's going to be knocked off within no time. You carry out a wargaming computer, wargaming package solution. You carry out a Su-57 versus a F-35. It will knock it off within no time, because the avionics as well as the arsenal, besides the avionics, the arsenal, it is so effective. And I believe those officers who have been to the facility at Nasik, which is producing the Su-30, that is Mark II,
Yes, sir.
they are saying that the moment you get the Su-57, it will just take off. So we should get that more reliable, dependable, and which is more amenable to training. That is the entire cross section of the Air Force pilots, man and woman, without gender bias. All Air Force pilots are asking for the Su-57. And I think the Ministry of Defense is looking at it, and not the F-35 from America, because you'll get all garbage and you will not be able to use it in any time against any country. You have to take permission. Any equipment that is getting from the United States, whether it's a submarine, it's an aircraft, it's a tank, or anything, you will, like the Admiral said, the black box, you will get, it'll be a paradox. You will not be able to use it in operations against any country. So if you have to go in for a surgical strike, you'll have to keep waiting and asking, sir, should we go ahead? Sir, are we getting the algorithm? Sir, are we? And you will not get the approbation and permission and sanction from Americans. So kindly make out as to who's on your side and who's not on your side. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Commodore AJ Singh. Dashjot, you can go ahead with the next speaker.
So we are having Colonel Ronnie Dargan with us. Sir, I would like to apologize on behalf of the Indian netizens for the inconvenience caused to you, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I express my deep regrets for not having been able to join in time, and I was looking forward to it. There was some kind of a communication gap, and particularly when two friends, Tony Gadeock and Anil, were there on this panel, it was whole night I was thinking I'll probably attend to this. Um, and I did prepare something, but due to paucity of time, I'm afraid I am not able to ask any questions. But one thing I would like to ask from both of them, other than what equipment that we are going to produce, BrahMos, HAL, Dhruv helicopters, and the countries that even the United States probably is making a lot of purchases from us, what is the way forward, particularly to streamline the export procedure through single window system first? Secondly, will be the FDI policy? The government has very clearly stated that 74% FDI allowed under automatic route in defense manufacturing and 100% through government route for select cases. Now they established two defense corridors, one in Tamil Nadu, I think, and one in probably Lucknow. What probably will be the key drivers to encourage more private players? Only about 2 days ago, I was seeing an interview by Baba Kalyani from Bharat Forge, and he was giving out a complete detail as to what all difficulties. Of course, now everything seems to have been sorted out. That he faced when he started manufacturing the guns.
Yeah, very true.
Now, are we going to encourage more private players and startups to enter the sectors via IDEX or DPEPP route, or probably reduce over reliance on public sector undertakings? Maybe a very short answer would probably be appreciated by most of all. I just wanted to know what will be are we still going to face those typical Indian bureaucratic hurdles, and are we going to streamline that procedure if we start talking of exports to countries like Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East, Europe, Latin America, others? This is what my biggest worry is. We always start off on a very good thinking, very good wicket, but finally end up in bureaucratic hurdles. What will be the FDI policy?
So the FDI policy, as you mentioned, is actually 74% at the moment. Absolutely, you mentioned correctly. You can just come in and establish a 74% FDI as a foreign OEM in India. There's no restriction on that. As far as the 100% goes, you've got to come in with some very specific technology that does not exist in the country and is not likely to be developed in the country in the near future. So far, out of 8 or 9 proposals that have come from various global majors for setting up a 100% FDI facility in India, only one has got approval so far. That is of Saab. They're making a carbon fiber barrel for a gun or something. I'm not sure what exactly. But that is basically what it is. Again, here there is a bit of an issue because, when you ask them a question, okay, this is an item. Suppose I want to bring in a system. That system does not exist in India. Or India is not really in the position to be able to develop a system in a certain period of time. And a foreign OEM wants to come in and make that system with 100% FDI. Will the government look at it as a system? Or will they say, no, in this electronic components we can make in India. So, don't do this in your FDI company. And this we can do in India, so don't do that in your FDI company. The monitor we can make over here, so don't do that. Is it going to be like that? Or is it going to be, okay, I'm taking the whole system from you as a 100% FDI facility, from a 100% FDI facility? There is still lack of clarity on that. I'll be very honest with you, because I've spoken to people about this. There is an organization called Invest India, which has been set up. They have an office in the Vigyan Bhavan Annex. It has been set up by the Ministry of Commerce, and it is staffed by young mid-level bureaucrats and people from the industry, including the consultancies, companies. The head of that is a lady who headed Intel India for 30 years. Or she was in Intel India for 30 years and was heading it finally. So it's a mixed bag. They are very, very proactive, sir. When you go and meet them, they're very proactive. They say, and they do everything pro bono, because they say we are a government organization. We are not going to charge you. So they are like a one-stop consultancy. They can help you identify what you can do. They can help you go through the process of how to fill up the application. They can help you find the right site you're looking at. It could be a defense corridor. You want to be near a port. They will find something for you in Pune or Bombay or whatever. If you say, I'd like to be there. So they claim to be able to provide that sort of assistance. Also, there are aspects the companies have, with legal, and also companies, there are the other consultancies, the ENYs and the PwC are also working on this. So I think at the moment, it's a very early stage for the 100% FDI thing. As more and more companies apply for it and they find the reasons, why it's happening or not happening, this will get streamlined and will work, because the government is keen to get it. Now, usual bureaucratic process will take its own time, sir, that momentum to pick up. So I think that will happen.
What probably, Anil, I mean to say that, is there some kind of a thinking going on for defense ecosystem development? Are we thinking of those lines like private sector growth, or we still have got that innovation always?
No, sir.
of the private sector.
Private sector now is being treated on par with the public sector, even by the ministry bureaucrats. If you go and tell them, DPSU, which is, as far as I'm concerned, there's no DPSU. It's an open competition. If a private sector gets it, well and good. So that was one. Yes, DPSUs have certain
Are we going
advantages.
to reduce? Are we going to reduce over reliance on public sector undertakings?
It's already happening, sir, because most of the thing is becoming competitive now. The only issue is, for example, I'll tell you, if a DPSU were to, let's say, have to augment its infrastructure to build, let's say, a new equipment, he will be able to get the money from the government on better terms than a private sector guy will get from the bank. So, those are the kind of things. So the level playing field is not fully level, but it's fairly level.
What are the challenges that need to be addressed? In my mind, particularly are bureaucratic hurdles in export clearances, need to sustain after-sales support, and global marketing. Now, after-sales support is most important. Competition from established exporters like USA, Russia,
Oh, you're
China,
talking of India exporting to
Israel.
outside countries?
They are saying to. But are we again going to face some kind of a competition from these countries?
I think, sir, the good thing we are doing is we are first targeting countries. See, firstly, what has happened is in Europe and America, what has happened is because of the Ukraine war and the sudden demand over there, prices have gone through the roof of their tier 1 suppliers and tier 2 suppliers. So more and more European companies are now looking at countries like India, South Korea, Singapore, which are technically sophisticated, to identify companies in India which they can integrate into their global supply chains. So that is one good thing that is happening, because they say we cannot rely on our traditional European suppliers anymore.
I am using this word. Probably I call it for diplomatic leverage, soft power tools, like offer India diplomatic influence by supporting affordable, reliable defense equipment to friendly nations. That should be our main policy.
That is our main.
If
you see,
we are doing that.
All the effort that is being made by the MOD right now to export has been to what we call friendly foreign nations. And we know that we are not there to compete with the NATO countries in the level of sophistication. But we also know that for the kind of prices that countries in the global south, let me take a generic term like global south, that the kind of prices that countries in the global south can afford, India is an ideal market to deliver stuff to them, because they are not looking at the cutting edge of absolute superior technology. They are happy to take a technology that is maybe 5 years old or 10 years old, which will come to them much cheaper. India's ecosystem can build that also very effectively. So there is a lot of good work happening in this space. I mean, I'm involved with industry, so I have an idea on how, firstly, European companies want India to be in their global supply chain. European companies are looking to establish India as an export hub for their products, which will be manufactured in India and therefore can be sold cheaper to these countries because they can't afford German prices or French prices or American prices. And third thing for India is very important is that if we have to compete with the Chinese in terms of, wooing countries with defense exports or with defense diplomacy, then we have to start doing it quickly, because otherwise by the time we start doing it, China would have enveloped this whole area with their French, like the Russians used to have friendship prices in the good old days.
No, I was very happy to see Baba Kalyani's interview. Incidentally, he's from my school only, and I know him personally also, that in 155 millimeter, he was very, very upset in the earlier stages, but now he's overexcited, exuberant, 155 millimeter howitzers. And that gave me a lot of confidence. Yes, we are changing. We are changing.
100%, sir. I mean, I see it on a daily basis when I interact with the ministry or when I interact with like Invest India. I never thought the government will set up this kind of facilitation agency where you can go and talk to them and they talk to you like you're talking to a private sector consultancy like an ENY or a PwC. That's the kind of conversation they're having, and saying we'll help you do everything and we're not going to charge you a penny for it.
Right.
So long as you're willing to make that investment in India.
Thanks a lot. And I was really looking forward to this very interesting topic. And I was very, very upset when I couldn't connect. Then finally, I think Deepal Mehta sent me a message that please connect and so on. So, and by the time halfway through, it was all over. But still, it was wonderful meeting both of you.
Pleasure, sir. Always.
So I actually, of course, not in this domain, but in the communication domain, one has learned so much from you, and you've been actually a wizard, if I may call you, a stalwart. But what I can tell you, sir, today, you like me, I think we are from the same genetic, bloodline, if I may use. We have the same DNA and enzyme. I do get excited only for my country. Besides, your spouse, there's only other person who excites you is the country,
I
and that
fully agree
also,
with you. There is
and
nothing
that
that
also
excites me more. The moment something's being talked about India, I was
about India.
desperate to attend this webinar
And
also.
today, actually, you were not there, but we spent, I think the Admiral Anil and myself have spent quite some time. I've got this newspaper cutting, which I'm going to make it mandatory and imperative for all my students to gobble up. And I'm going to create now a quiz competition. If a student doesn't know about your country as to what is going to be ordered, that is by foreign industries and everything. Sir, just see with Spain what we were talking, and Anil gave it out very well. With Spain, we've got Airbus Spain C296, that C295, I think, military aircraft at Vadodara, Gujarat. Adani Design Systems, L&T projects, with Adani Group, Bharat Forge. I met Baba Kalyani in Pune, and ATAGS has got 7,000 crore now for ATAG system, 40 kilometers range. We've got these drone systems. I had narrated, I've given it out. Now, just because we are short of time, sir, look at Garuda Space, Solar Industries, Idea Forge, Alpha Design with Israel, Elbit, New Space Research. This is Rafim Afibir, Paris Defense, New Space, Throttle Aerospace. Sir, we are now collaborating because the Prime Minister has said we are going in for a 5-layered defense. And I just spoke to the children and I told the students 5-layered air defense. And India in 2 years is going to be the best in the world. It's not going to be the Iron Dome or what has been spoken about in a very vague, laggard manner by Donald Trump. He was so emaciated while he was speaking about the Golden Dome and he was being prompted. I felt. I felt that he wasn't, and it's going to be $25 billion and it's going to be 154 and 252 in so many years. I can predict and prognosticate today India is going to have the best air defense system in the world. We're going to beat everyone: Israel, China, United States. We don't require these iron domes and silver and golden domes. We don't require all this nonsense. India is going to create a multi-layered air defense system, and so we are going to be the best. And it's already come out in the news. The Prime Minister has said that 50,000 crores will be given. And I think before the delegations come back as part of, I'm calling it military diplomacy. It's always part of military diplomacy that they've gone through, and they're going to have these parleys and overtures with foreign countries so as to brief them in correct perspective about their country. That when you have terrorism, we will retaliate and we will make sure that we exterminate, we will obliterate, devastate, denigrate, and make sure that we totally neutralize out of existence. That's all. Thank you. I always want to share my cliche that all that we do, ladies and gentlemen, especially the students who are hearing me, I always say that we should do it with solemnity of blood, tenacity of steel, ferocity of lions, and the wisdom of kings. Thank you very much. Har Maidan Fateh, 52 Armored Regiment. Har Maidan Fateh, Jai Hind.
Thank you very much to all the audience present here. So as we draw this insightful session to a close, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to each one of you for joining us today for this impactful webinar on defense equipment manufacturing in India. Our sincere gratitude goes to our esteemed speakers whose expertise and perspectives have added immense value to today's session. Your inputs not only have shed light on the current landscape, but also inspired confidence in the opportunities that lie ahead in India's defense manufacturing sector. To our audience, thank you for your active participation and unwavering interest. Your engagement has played a crucial role in making this webinar a meaningful and successful event. We hope today's dialogue fosters deeper collaboration and innovation in strengthening our nation's self-reliance in defense productions. Thank you once again, and we look forward to your continued support in future initiatives. Stay safe, Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. Thank
God
you,
bless
sir.
you all.
It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Anil. Lovely hearing from you. Very insightful.
Pleasure, sir, as
Bye.
always.
Bye. I can only
Bye,
see
sir.
Republic of Korea.
Bye, sir. Good day, sir. Dargan, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you so much, Anil, and thank you, Tony. I think I was on mute. My heartiest compliments to you for taking us up to a
Thank you for
different
joining,
level.
sir. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Right.
And I'm so grateful. And I'm grateful to the organizers.
Yeah.
But the moment I saw it, I was very keen to attend.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Ashok. Thanks, Aditya.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Nice seeing you, Deepal. We connected yesterday only, so it was nice.
And
Yeah,
thanks,
sir.
Deepal, for connecting me. I was lost
No,
here.
sir, it's a pleasure having you here.
Okay. All the best. All of you,
All
please
the
take.
best. Bye.
Thank you so
everyone
much.
for joining. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You guys pulled it off. And commendations to Darjyot as well for moderating on a very short notice.